Hey guys, I'm here at the Campbell location and we've run into a couple of problems that I want to address with you before we really uh, get into the tear out of this panel board, which is the one we're replacing. So I'll get right to it. The big board with all the white tape, that's the one that we're replacing. But then we have this one here, which is a temporary that I've installed so that we can run some of these circuits to a temporary panel to keep lighting, freezers, refrigerators, stuff like that working. Then we have over here, we have a sub panel, a small sub that is original to the building, and then we have another small sub over here. Now here's our dilemma. So the small sub panels are actually both being fed from this 1.5 inch EMT conduit that was run relatively recent compared to the rest of the infrastructure. But this is something I didn't catch before, and I'm glad I'm catching it now before we really tear into it. We have inside here 2 sets of hot leads that are feeding our 2 sub panels. We've got the small hot leads here, which are feeding down into this conduit, this EMT, running over and feeding our 2 lugs for this sub. And then we have a similar scenario where we have the 2 bigger 2-aught copper leads feeding down to this piece of 2-inch EMT over to this sub, which is our leads here going to our lugs. What you may not have seen is that in this conduit coming through, we have no neutrals, we have no grounds. So how do we get neutral to both of our subs when there's no feeder grounded conductors? So here we go. This lead right here, that white big lead with the tape on it, that's the neutral that's feeding this sub panel. And then over here, in a completely different set of flex, we have another white wire going to a neutral bar, going into that flex, feeding over to here, which is this guy. Now what this means is that our main panel, and when I say main panel, it's not a metered panel. So it's not, the gear is out on the side of the building, and that's our main. This is still considered a sub, but basically this sub is providing the current back to ground, back to neutral, for the 2 sub panels, which means if I were to kill power, which is what I have to do, so we have our 2 big lugs, our 2 big ones down there, I go turn off the breaker at the switchboard, at the gear, and then this panel is dead, which is all good and dandy. But when I go to tear this panel out, when I come to this wire, that is our neutral feed going into that lug, which is feeding, basically providing the path back for all the hot leads on all 3 panels. With this panel dead, when I disconnect that wire to tear all this out, this neutral bar and this neutral bar becomes hot, full 120 volts, because now both of these sub panels don't have a path back to neutral. So with those becoming hot, anything that provides a path, so if we have any areas, especially back at the main switch gear, where the neutrals and the grounds all come together, assuming we don't have any coming together before then, which we're not supposed to, but this building's old. All of that is hot now. So basically, when I disconnect that wire with this panel and this panel's main breakers still on at the switch gear, which they would be, because why would we disconnect and tear apart those panels? The neutral becomes hot because now we no longer have a path back for these 2 panels, and essentially so does everything that's grounded in this entire structure. So this is a problem. The solution is these circuits have to be repulled with grounding and neutral wires. So moving forward, we're going to move forward with the panel replacement and get it done, which, as you can see, there's a lot going on here. This is a significant amount of work to get this can removed. It's going to increase our times that the whole building is shut down. Generators will be powering small circuits, but like freezers, food areas, everything will be down for the amount of time it takes to get this can removed and be able to pull temporary lines off of those feeder conductors, and of course getting neutrals lugged together in order to provide a neutral for these two sub panels just for temporary power while we're working. But this needs to be fixed. We don't have to do it today, but it has to be done. Otherwise, this is a huge risk for somebody getting electrocuted down the road by simply touching a conduit or touching something metal tied through the grounding or neutral structure in the wrong scenario. And because this panel creates a path for those to be charged with these other panels powered up, it's something that has to be addressed. But I wanted to send you guys the video explaining it all, and then we can chat on the phone and get to the bottom of it. Thanks, guys.